For the past 60 years, WDBJ has been the #1 television station here in Roanoke. People have such a strong connection to the CBS station that they see the company's employees almost like family. For many who watched the murders live on TV yesterday, it was like watching friends lose their lives.
Just to show our love and our respect.
You can see feelings of sadness expressed throughout the region, from Rocky Mount, near where the shootings happened, to Roanoke.
It's just overwhelming.
At WDBJ, people brought in a steady stream of gifts and sentiments.
When you wake up in the morning, you feel like you're waking up, to somebody you know.
Wednesday morning, during a live interview, former WDBJ employee Vester Lee Flanagan shot and killed photojournalist Adam Ward and reporter Allison Parker.
I loved her on live broadcasts. They were so personal and so in-depth.
WDBJ General Manager Jeff Marks said there is no truth to any of the allegations Flanagan made against employees or the station.
I'm angry at cowardice. I'm angry at the system, which didn't have a place for this man to be taken care of. I'm angry for lives cut short. I'm angry for all the people in my building who are suffering.
Please join us now in a moment of silence.
Choking back tears, the morning news team got through today's broadcast, focusing on their job at hand to deliver the news and serve this community.
It's not just our loss, it's this whole area's loss. They're from this area. They have roots in this area.
The anguish and sadness over 2 lives cut short, shared by a city and beyond.
We are a community. We are a family. If we're not, then what are we doing here? What are we doing on this earth? I don't understand what's happening in this country.
In Roanoke, Peggy Fox, WUSA 9. They depict a mentally ill woman who was basically hogtied, hands behind her back, connected to the shackles on her feet, a mask on her face, and then when she wouldn't bend her knees to sit in a restraint chair, she was tased 4 times.
We were trying to get her help.
Fairfax County Sheriff Stacy Kincaid is furious an employee at the jail released what she calls incomplete incident reports of the tasing of inmate Natasha McKenna. The 37-year-old Alexandria mother had schizophrenia. In February, when deputies tried to transfer her to the Alexandria jail, she fought back. A deputy tased her 4 times. Her heart stopped and she later died.
Handcuffs, leg shackles, mask. Still not cooperating. Okay, bang, 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 50,000 volts. We're going to make you submit. With someone with a serious mental illness, you have to de-escalate the situations. Crisis intervention training teaches that, and that's where the focus should be.
Pete Early, an advocate for the mentally ill, said the jail employee who read him the incident reports was afraid the information would not get out.
When you don't trust county officials to do the right thing, then you're going to have whistleblowers.
Fairfax police picked up McKenna on an outstanding warrant for assaulting an Alexandria police officer. Sheriff Kincaid says getting her back to Alexandria was the only way to get her help.
In order for us to get her the help she needed, we were told that she had to go back to Alexandria because she did not have an attorney in Fairfax County. That attorney has got to go to court to petition the court in order to get her committed into a hospital.
Why was McKenna even in jail is the bigger question, says Ron Honberg of the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
But there's really no excuse not to come and get her. But really what there was no excuse for is that she was in jail, that she should have been in a hospital.
Now, Sheriff Kincaid agrees there needs to be better systems and laws in place to help mentally ill people when they land in jail, which they often do. She confirms there's a videotape of this incident and says it will eventually be released to the public after the family sees it.
Well, it's just shocking. It's just totally shocking.
During a routine pretrial motion, prosecutors disclosed new, stunning allegations against Michael Gardner. They said a jailhouse informant told them that Gardner tried to hire a hitman to kill the 3 Falls Church girls he's accused of molesting.
They're being terrorized over and over and over again. And now with these new allegations, it's, it's beyond belief.
What do you think about the allegations today that Michael Gardner was trying to hire someone to kill your child and the other victims in this case?
It is just so unbelievable.
Gardner's wife, Robin Gardner, a former Falls Church mayor and council member, substituted a handout for an answer. Robin, was that information a surprise to you? Do you believe any of it?
I just have a heart to give you because I think that's a gift to you. Thanks so much.
Michael Gardner was released from prison in June after the Virginia Supreme Court threw out his conviction for molesting 2 girls. He is scheduled to be retried in that case, but first he'll be tried on similar charges involving a young female relative.
Now isn't a good time to talk about it, but thanks a lot.
Prosecutors are trying to put Gardner's attorney, Chris Liebig, on the stand to testify about the new claims from the informant. Liebig called the informant a professional snitch and says his client denies the allegations. Prosecutors are taking them seriously and say a number of people were targeted.
We asked the Virginia State Police to investigate, as we said, because one of the things the informant told us was that Mr. Gardner had made some death threats against the witnesses in the trial against him, as well as potentially myself and the other prosecutor and potentially one of the detectives involved.
You're moving your legs. I'm right here with you.
Hope is what Sue Deviney clings to since the dark day when her son Ryan was brutally beaten at college.
Every little thing makes me recognize what he's lost.
Ryan was 20 years old, a sophomore in pre-law at West Virginia University when 2 young men nearly killed him.
Ryan was backpedaling out of the way. Next thing you know, one kid sucker punched him, knocked him out, and another kid walked up and kicked him in the head. It was described as like he was punting a football.
5 years after the beating, Ryan Deviney is still in a partially vegetative state. His eyelids won't close on their own, so they're sewn shut for now. But his body is surprisingly toned, thanks to his dad's full-time care and specialized machines, which stimulate his muscles to work.
They know very little about the brain. So my hope is that over time his brain will heal, and my husband and I want to keep his body healthy.
A lot of this equipment, like this $60,000 hyperbaric chamber, is not covered by insurance. It all comes out of the Deviney's pocket. That's where this man comes into the picture. Frank Fumick, an ultra-endurance athlete and WVU graduate, heard about Ryan's plight and wanted to help. So he entered the grueling 12-day Race Across America bicycle race.
I want to really blow people away, and I also want to suffer. I always say that the ending is so much more meaningful when you suffer to get there.
Suffer he did. He wore 2 holes into his backside. In Mississippi, he had to be carried off his bike, but he endured until Clarksburg, West Virginia, where friends intervened and got him to quit. Still, Fumick raised more than $90,000 for the Devineys.
He's amazing. He's an incredible, crazy, but incredible man.
Sue says after seeing such evil in the world, for Frank Fumick to go to such extremes to help a stranger in need gives them reason to believe in miracles.
Love you.
In Ashburn, Peggy Fox, WUSA 9.
The Eagle has landed.
46 years ago today, the Apollo 11 spacecraft landed and Neil Armstrong walked on the moon.
That's one small step for man.
It was one of those unforgettable moments in history.
I was watching it with my sister.
It was a huge achievement for America, politically and scientifically.
Overcoming a big challenge. I mean, it was a huge task that Kennedy said, and they did it.
America's history of space exploration is well documented at the Air and Space Museum and the Udvar Hazy Center, except something's been missing for a while.
So the flag we are particularly interested in because there's some abrasions to the fibers.
Neil Armstrong's lunar suit he wore on his famous walk. Lisa Young is the object's conservator.
We did notice that the interior rubber bladder had become brittle. So once they become brittle and they sort of start their degradation process, it's irreversible.
In 1976, the Air and Space Museum opened and Neil Armstrong's suit went on display. For 30 years, more than 20 million people saw the suit. But then in 2006, it was taken off display because of the degradation, and it's been in storage ever since.
Don't forget to share this video with your friends using the hashtag #RebootTheSuit.
The Smithsonian has launched a Kickstarter campaign to raise $500,000 to conserve, digitize, and display Neil Armstrong's suit.
We will produce a 3D scan that somebody could actually print their own spacesuit if they wanted to have one in the future.
Now, back on July 20th, 1969, Buzz Aldrin was the second man to walk on the moon, right behind Neil Armstrong. His suit is still on display at the Air and Space Museum, and the money that's raised through this Kickstarter campaign will be used to preserve and conserve all of the Apollo suits. Well, that's right. About 7:30 yesterday morning, smoke and flames were coming from the top of that utility pole. Several people saw it, but no 911 calls were made. And then Kathy Byman came walking along. She happens to be a friend of mine. She was walking along with her dog, saw a burning piece of wood on the ground, looked up, saw smoke coming from the utility pole. She ran, then heard a boom.
6 or 8 steps it felt like, and my legs locked up, and I couldn't move anymore, and I went down.
You fell?
I fell.
Kathy Byman took her dog Kona for a walk Sunday morning. It was a bright sunny day. There was no warning for what happened next.
She was standing here when it exploded.
Remember that big storm Saturday night? Dominion Virginia Power says it appears the utility pole had been struck by lightning and smoldered through the night.
The ground was all kind of steaming and wet through here, and there's a strong smell of smoke.
While walking, Kathy saw a chunk of wood burning here in the grass. It was apparently part of the crossbeam, which has since been replaced. Kathy ran, heard an explosion, and fell in the street.
Suddenly, my legs just couldn't move. I mean, I felt like somebody had grabbed my legs, and I literally couldn't move, and the only thing I could do was fall forward.
I think she maybe ran right through the water because she was laying in the water.
Friend and neighbor Cheryl Ryan, a nurse, ran to help.
Oh, she was in a lot of pain. She couldn't feel her legs. She couldn't move her legs.
Another neighbor called her husband Mike.
There was a surge of electricity that either went through the ground or the air and shocked her and knocked her to the ground.
An ambulance took Kathy to the ER and she was released in a few hours, but still she has a lot of pain in her hips and legs. She says it feels like a burn on the inside.
Not something you would expect to happen when you're just out walking your dog on a nice summer morning.
Now, the paramedics and doctors that treated Kathy told her she had been shocked. The paramedics said, "You are so lucky." She was standing on 2 legs. Apparently, the electricity traveled up 1 leg through her hips, down the other leg. They said, had you been standing on 1 foot, the electricity might have gone through her body, and the outcome could have been horrific. The man said he pressed record on his cell phone right before the colonoscopy so that he would not forget to record the doctor's instructions after he came to from the short procedure. Unbeknownst to him, his bag of clothes, which included his cell phone, was put into the procedure room. And in a room in that building, what was recorded sounded more like a rude, raunchy television comedy skit than real doctors performing a real procedure. It was in this rest-in office behind closed doors where doctors performing a colonoscopy were recorded saying the rudest things about their patient.
And really, after 5 minutes of talking to you in pre-op, I wanted to punch you in the face and man you up a little bit.
That voice is anesthesiologist Dr. Tiffany Ingham. She and gastroenterologist Solomon Shaw were sued by the man who was undergoing that colonoscopy. While he was under anesthesia, the doctors discussed a rash on his penis.
Syphilis on your arm or something. It's probably tuberculosis in the penis, so I'm sure you'll be all right.
His attorney said he was verbally brutalized and defamed by the very doctors to whom he entrusted with his life.
Well, why are you looking then, retard?
Dr. Ingham also recorded a false diagnosis on the patient's record.
I'm going to mark hemorrhoids, even though we don't see them and probably won't. I'm just going to take a shot in the dark.
You know, it is disappointing, yeah.
You think doctors will be more careful?
I'm sure.
You know, they say there's no privacy anymore, you know, and I'm always very careful about what I say.
I was completely surprised. I found almost every statement to be shocking.
Stacey Rose Harris, an attorney who specializes in civil suits, says the case is unique and raises the bar.
I think it sends a strong message to doctors and to all professionals to watch what they say about their paying patients and clients, to consider their reputations in a setting where they're supposed to be acting professionally.
Now, on the opening day of the trial last week, Solomon Shaw, the gastroenterologist who works here in Reston, was dismissed from the lawsuit, even though he is heard in the recording making some insulting comments. And he did not stop the other doctor, the anesthesiologist, from recording that the patient had hemorrhoids, when in fact he did not.